it's beyond question that it's a very important country. Ukraine is a very important country. It's a very important partner for Egypt. We have interactions on so many levels: educational, cultural, and others. This posting is one that I find very pleasantly challenging in so many ways. In my previous academic and professional career for the past 25 years has only been with the United Nations, working on multilateral diplomacy in the United Nations and so on. Turned out to be a positive thing because I guess if you're used to work in a room with 192 or 93 countries, it's much easier to focus on one country and you can achieve a lot. So it was the challenge of having now to serve in a bilateral posting. I knew little about Ukraine other than from what you can get from normal knowledge of a country of such importance, but I didn't have the personal sense of that country. Beyond working with Ukrainian diplomats in the United Nations in many spheres, and many of them, most of them, have turned out to be very good friends, actually. And my impression of Ukrainian diplomats has always been very positive and very high. They're very professional. I was very positively impressed when I came to Kiev. I think that beyond its obvious political importance, I think that Ukraine is an extremely rich country, and I think it's a great honor to really live in this country and deal with that wonderful people of Ukraine. And it's work in progress, and the more I do that, the more I enjoy it, and the more I realize the new fields that that hold very serious potential. I think our nations both have rich history, different though, and perhaps comparable in some aspects, but in general, our nations are ones that their own fingerprints in history shaped. Noting how ancient the Egyptian civilization is, we are talking about a nation that has roughly maintained its borders conquests. It was conquered over history and over the ages by a long list of other nations and civilizations. Egyptians are very tough people. They have gone through everything and managed to continue standing on their feet. They can take a lot of pressure and continue to live the life they want to live. They have defeated every possible conqueror that has come to Egypt. Currently, Ukraine is the country #1 that provides us with tourists. Some 450,000 Ukrainians visit Egypt every year, enjoying our beaches. And when you tell me, why do you think to go to Egypt as a tourist destination, I don't think it's just about I think there's some very interesting chemistry, common chemistry that exists between Egyptian people and Ukrainian people. For their country, they want to protect its economic prosperity, and I think that our peoples together, but it's also the differences. And it's very interesting to observe that and to acknowledge it. I think there are differences, like in the way of life, are more closer to Oriental traditions than they are to European ones. It's amazing that it's amazing to see how our cultures have our civilization and our people's presence here, and the other way around. I think that every nation has its own very unique blend of sets of values, of their religious duties and the way they see their life aspirations, and we'd be surprised how similar they are in so many ways, even if it's in a different language. Our people are kind people who really want to be leaving their good and positive impact in the goals and objectives of our peoples and our nations, and you'd find it really surprising how similar they are at the end of the day. I must say that we are living a very important stage of Egyptian history. I think the Egyptian people impressed the world very much, and asserting that they were looking for a better future where they would have justice opportunity and prosperity. And then elections brought President Mohammed Morsi that came from the ranks of the Muslim Brotherhood. However, when the performance of that regime was far below the Egyptian people's expectations and that they deserved better, the Egyptians didn't hesitate again to take out to the streets and get out that regime and again go for a newly elected president after a transitional period. With an extremely high record of, I think, above 95% vote in his favor. And I think, like the Ukrainian Maidan, was really one that was seen as very interesting, as inspiration. And I think it was very interesting to observe that both revolutions occurred in Al-Maidan. So for us, of course, the symbolism of Maidan is a big one. System and regime change that accompanied our Maidan revolution. Now nations know what to do when they want to the movement of our peoples into a new phase, and it's a phase of seeking prosperity, seeking stability, and seeking better futures for next generations. As tough as the days of Maidan were, and as opportunities they bring to peoples both in my country and in Ukraine, I think in each of the two cases they opened new horizons. I think reform is a very challenging task, especially when it comes when you pursue reform after decades of being tainted with corruption or inefficiency. The task is huge. For the leaderships. I'm very impressed when I walk into an office, a government office, to meet a senior official, be it a minister. I think that this country is very much on the right track. I think we have acknowledged in Egypt also that the biggest asset the country has, regardless of its economic challenges, is our people. President Sisi held office after decades of challenges that have. There was a number of disappointments on major infrastructure projects in the country. There was a lot of factories have closed down. I think you've seen some very courageous steps that have been taken. Financial institutions, major projects that are held, including the New Cairo project. The most important thing for reform is to pursue it correctly. If you pursue it too fast, the impact on the society and on national institutions and practices is too tough to tolerate. It has to be done. It takes time to reform, because you also learn in the process. You need to really do what's right for your country that fits the very structure of its national institutions in terms of economic prosperity and political stability. I'm sure that they wish their Ukrainian friends also the same. And the dedication of the Egyptian people will bring this in line. One very unpleasant challenge we have, of course, is terrorism. It is obvious that it is not a national problem alone, it's a global problem. And I think the explosions that occurred in the past few months in France, in Belgium, in Turkey, in many other parts of the world identify the fact that we are combating the vicious, nasty forces of darkness that are trying to oppose that requires our very coherent action in the United Nations and beyond. And we have extended bridges of cooperation with a huge number of countries in order to try to pursue this problem. I was taught a very long time ago by my father. He said, you have to be immune in your job, and you have to be very immune against disappointment to the best of your ability, wherever you are. The place will never identify you, and the role will never identify you. It is not the job you have or the place you are posted to that will tell you who you are. It's the way you perform your job that will identify you. And I remember this very much. So I must say that this very belief that professionalism is about doing the right thing and doing the best of your ability. I also have other inspiring sources. For example, I appreciate art very much. I'm a collector of art. So I read a lot about art. I visit exhibitions all the time. I actually paint myself when I have the time. I collect the works of Egyptian artists. I am a frequent visitor of the Kiev History Museum, where a number of exhibitions are held. That's my little island where I take refuge in from the responsibilities of the professional life, the family duties. And I think hobbies provide a very useful inspiration, and I protect and care for my hobbies very much. In fact, I'm trying to organize now next year in spring a big exhibition where 40 Egyptian painters, the works of 40 Egyptian painters would be displayed. I would very much mutual good cultural taste that exists between the people of Ukraine and Egypt. I hope we managed to put it together nicely, provide extremely important connections that promote bilateral relations between governments and peoples.